Hello and welcome to the Metaphorics NAV Know-How webinar. I'm Pauline Forder and today we are going to be looking at VAT reporting, where we will look at the calc and post-VAT settlement routine and the production of the VAT statement. The year-end process, where we will close and create a new fiscal year and run the close income statement and post the resulting journal. And then finally we will look at currencies, how we populate our exchange rates against the various currencies, and then we will run through how to run the adjust currency revaluation batch job. So, first of all, we'll start with our VAT settlement and we'll look initially at our VAT statement. I do have it in my roll centre here. And in our Cronus database that we are using, we have got a VAT GB, VAT return, so I will select that. And then within there, I have the actual statement itself. The purpose of this layout is to provide details, feedback on the various postings from a VAT perspective. And in fact, what I will do just first of all is I will just pop back, because it is important that we can see from a setup point of view what that statement is being based on. So we have this VAT posting setup, and in here we have to supply all the various combinations of our VAT business posting groups and our VAT product posting groups that we will be posting to. And it is this table that is used therefore within the calc and post routine and what we must have present as far as our VAT statement is concerned. So every combination we have here, we must also see in our VAT statement. So the way we normally lay our VAT statement out is in this particular way. The top section relates to the summary of all the various postings with our actual VATable, payable or receivable value in this particular row here. But in the body of the VAT statement, it's important, as I said, that we have all those combinations. So we have a section on purchase. So we have our general posting type of purchase. We then have the individual VAT business posting groups, and then within that, all the various product combinations. We're looking at the amount field, i.e. the actual VAT amount. So this is duplicated for all our EU combinations, and in this particular database, our export. We then have to specify from a sales point of view exactly the same, this time picking up the general posting type of sale, but again using those combinations that we have in our VAT posting setup. Once we've completed all on the amount fields, we then have to go through the various combinations again, but this time from a base. So this is the amount on which the VAT will be calculated. Again, going through all those combinations. So to actually view the values of our statement, we just simply go to the preview button at the top. And we have some options at the top so that Navision knows exactly what it is that we are reporting on. Our first selection is include VAT entries where they are open, closed or open and closed. Normally when you're running your VAT statement you will only ever use the open, However, if you want to look back at previous VAT statements, then you can do that by using the closed option. We also have the choice about which entries to include, i.e. before and within period or within period. Now, because in some situations we do have postings that can go back into a previous VAT quarter, of course we must be able to pick those up. So that is why we would choose the before and within period option. We then need to pop in the date or the VAT quarter that we're actually running. And for this database, let's say it is a Cronus database, so we're actually going to be running it for October 2016 to the end of December 2016. So here are our actual values here. So that is the one side of our VAT reconciliation, the other side being our calc and post VAT settlement. Again, we're prompted to fill in some information. The start date I'm going to be leaving blank because again I need to be able to bring through any entries that might be in a previous VAT quarter that haven't already been reconciled. I've put in my ending date and my posting date. I can then give it a document number of my choice, dependent on how I want that to be coded. And then I have to choose my settlement account. At this point, we have 2 tick boxes, and I'm going to promptly untick those and explain why. To show VAT entries, that would give me a report showing all the individual transactions. When I'm first doing my VAT reconciliation, I'm really only interested in the summary, i.e. the totals of the combinations. So I won't show my VAT entries for this particular run. And certainly I will not be ticking the post box, because once you have posted your bank VAT calc and post, then there is indeed no going back. So I will only do that as the very last process in this routine. I'm going to then, just so that we can see it on screen, I'm going to go to preview, and I'll just increase the size on that a little so we can see what is being reported, and then I'll come back to my VAT statement, and here is where I'm going to reconcile the 2 figures together. So my first port of call for me, I always like to just check that my total on the bottom of my report actually ties up with my total VAT on my VAT statement. So I'm pleased to say in this case it does indeed tie up, so it's a good start. However, it is important to check that all of the figures do read the same as the calc and post, because it is this calc and post that is what is going to be posted, whereas the statement is just there for a reporting point of view. So the way we read our report, we have our VAT business posting group in the first column, then the VAT product posting group, and then whether it is a purchase or a sale. It then details the base amount, the amount in which the VAT is calculated, and then the actual VAT amount in the amount field. You'll notice for the EU entries, they are reverse charge, and therefore, because of the way we report, it does automatically show that reversal. So you can report on it from a VAT statement point of view, but as far as NAB is concerned, it's going to do that reversal. So in order to check the values that we have, for example, I'm going to look at purchase and the amount fields, and I'm looking at the combination of national and VAT 20. So over to my reports, I'm looking for my national, VAT 20 and purchase. So national, VAT 20, purchase, and I have a total of 169,847.40, and there we go. I can see that those two are in fact the same. Visually I can just quickly see that for my VAT 5 I can see that those entries are also the same. So the idea is that you check everything from an amount point of view against all the combinations against your calc and post, and then from a sales perspective as well. So again, I'm going to pick up my national and 20, VAT 20, so national, VAT 20, this time sales, and we're looking at the amount field, so we have that figure that's correct, and likewise then against our base amounts. So again, I'll look at that purchase for national and VAT 20. So we've got VAT 20, purchase, and the base amount, which is 970,556.31, and indeed that does all tally. So we're happy that this is okay. If you have any discrepancies, there are some useful tools that you can use. For example, just through drilling down into one of the value fields, you can click into it to see what entries make up that value. So if there is any discrepancy, you can pop these out perhaps to Excel, and then from a reports point of view you can do your calc and post, do the detailed option, and then compare the entries from there. But in this case we're happy that our statement is indeed correct and does tie up with what Navision will be posting through. So I'm going to close those two down and now just go through the print, because I would like a either hard copy or PDF copy of my VAT statement. So again, I need to specify the VAT quarter that I'm running this for, which was October 2016 to the end of December. Again, and I need to print this out exactly as I am going to be posting from the calc and post perspective, which would be open entries and catching anything that might be outside of the specified period here. As I say, you can print PDF rather than hard copy, but in this case I'm actually just going to pop it into a preview so that we can see it on screen, and we can see those summary figures at the top of our page and then going down to the individual combinations on our statement lines. So once we have printed that out, then we must now actually post the calc and post, and we do that again from there is a link from the statement, or it might be on your home ribbon in your role centre, dependent on your role centre. But calc and post is going to remember the details as supplied before, but this time I will tick the show VAT entries, because of course we need to have that information for HMRC should they come knocking on our doors. And this time I will tick the post button. Now the actual function of posting comes off both the print or the preview button, so either will activate the post here, so you don't have an actual post button. Again, I'm just going to do the preview so that we can look at the details on screen. And of course, we always get asked, are we sure we want to post it? And yes, I do. So here's our report. And indeed, because I've asked for it in detail, I can get the details of the quarter, of where we're posting to, the VAT combinations under the various posting types, and then the individual entries that have made up those totals. And again, this will go through all of the combinations so that we have a full record of the information required. So that is how we run our VAT statement and post our calc and post. I'd now like to move on to the close year and close income statement routine. And our first port of call is via the calendar setup. Again, I'm lucky, I do have it on my roll centre. And here is where we're checking what years have been set up. So to do that, I go to the navigate button and year. And I can see that we have 2015, which is closed, and 2016, which is still open at the moment. Now there is a check done. If I were to just from here say close year, it will tell me that I must create a new fiscal year before I can close the old year. And the easiest and best route to do that is to actually use the function on the home ribbon to create fiscal year. The reason for doing it from here rather than just manually typing a line in is because as well as creating the new year, it actually creates all the months behind the scenes as well. It knows which is the last year that has been created and therefore will create the new year. You can specify how many months you want. Normally it would be set at 12 and most times it would be length of 1M. The only reason that might change is perhaps if you were changing the start of your fiscal year and your start of year is going to move. So you could extend that to say 15 months to move on from January to February, for example. But normally you will do it in this manner. So we say OK to that, and so therefore that new year has been created. So at this point I'm then able to close my year, and we do get a little dialog box here that tells us what Navision is going to do, and that once the year has been closed it cannot be reopened, and the periods in that fiscal year cannot be changed either. Doesn't mean, however, that you can't post to it, so closing is fine to do at this point in time. So I'm going to say yes to that, and it has in effect just ticked our little closed box there. So once we have created our new fiscal year and closed the year that we're going to be working on, we can then go and run the close income statement. So I will just close that down. So close income statement, and here we're required to enter some details. Navision, however, will automatically generate the year, the last year that was being closed, so it will always run it for the last closed year in the calendar setup. You then specify the journal template. I've decided that I'm just going to use general journals, and then the journal batch name. Now here you can create a separate batch, as I have done here, just called year end. You'll notice I haven't attached a number series to it because I want to provide my own document number for each time I run the closing income statement. So in my document number of my choice, so I'm going to say year end 2016. I then have to pick up my retained earnings account, and in our Cronus database there's nicely one called retained earnings, but of course you will know your own retained earnings account. Posting description is automatically populated for us. Of course I can change that, or I can add to it. And then if in my database I use dimensions, of course I've probably got dimension control set against my various GL accounts, and therefore I will need to incorporate those into my resulting journal. If for whatever reason I didn't want to do it at dimension level, what I would need to do would be to go to my chart of accounts and remove all the code mandatories that are there. In this case though, I will include my dimensions, and I do that by simply going to the Assist Edit, which opens up my dimension selection screen. I then simply tick those ones that are required and say OK, and then you'll see that they are indeed populated in the dimensions box. I then say OK. Now, dependent on the size of your database and the size of or volume of transactions that are posted, and of course if you're using dimensions, the various dimension combinations that need to be catered for, the running of that closing income statement can take a little while, and some of our customers decide that they will actually run that overnight so that they don't tie up their machine during the day, and they come in the morning and their journal is all populated for them. So it tells us that it has completed our journal lines. So I'm just going to go to my general journals, year end and edit journal, and there are all of my entries. Now you'll notice that I do have a number of entries for, in this case, GL account 6110, and that is simply because of the dimension breakdown. So in order to see that, I will just go to the choose columns and pop in the area code, business code, customer, department. I think campaign is one of my other dimensions, salesperson, purchaser, etc. Making sure I haven't missed any out. And OK. So we just have to reopen that to see those. And indeed, there are all the different combinations against the GL code, where you have a combination of different business groups, maybe area, customer groups, department, and so on and so forth. So that is why you will have multiple entries against one GL count. Now at this point, this is where the work really starts in terms of, for your good selves, to check that the values displayed on the screen are exactly as you were expecting them. If they are not correct and you deem that you need to enter some perhaps adjustments or new postings, whatever that might be, please delete your journal, and that's done simply by clicking top left hand of the batch lines, and then you can just do right click and delete line. The reason for this is that if you do not post your journal, and if you, for example, go back and make some corrections and then run the close income statement process again, it won't delete the lines automatically for you. It will actually append them to the bottom of the journal. So, of course, if you do that, then that means that you will duplicate the postings. So just a word of warning on that. When you're happy, you can just simply post or post and print. So I will just post my entries. And that is the end of the close income statement. However, of course, our auditors, etc., will from time to time ask us to post corrections or adjustments, and you can run the close income statement routine as many times as required. It will obviously just pull out those new entries each time, and then you can just post that journal. Okay, so that's how we create our new fiscal year, close our fiscal year, and run the close income statement. So now we're going to have a look at currencies. Again, on my roll centre, I do have currencies displayed. Now, the currencies table, as default, will come with the set of currencies as you see here, although I do recommend, if you only have a certain few currencies that you use, then to remove any entries of currencies that you don't use. This will just make sure that users won't inadvertently pick up the wrong currency on any particular transaction. Our screen here tells us information about the currency in terms of where we're going to post any realised or unrealised gains and losses, about amount rounding position, amount decimal places. So here it's actually telling us that the minimum decimal places is 2 and the maximum is 2, and so on and so forth against the various details. Then what's important is, because of course we need to specify what the exchange rate is, we need to add that for each of our currencies, and we do that by selecting the currency that we want to work on and going to exchange rates at the top of our ribbon. And in here it is up to us to enter the new rate at the appropriate time. Now, it could be that you put a rate in for the year, it might be for the week, the month, the day, whichever you work with, but each new rate has to have its starting date. So in this case, because again this is Krona, so we're actually looking at 2017, I'm going to put in 2017, January 2017, and I have no idea what the rate, obviously with the present climate as well, so I'm just going to put in 129, rightly or wrongly, as the euro exchange rate against a pound. Now this last column, fix exchange rate amount. When a user creates a document, sales or purchase, and it is currency related, Navision will always come into this table, and based on the date on the document will come to the relevant line within the exchange rate table. However, it is possible that a user can override that exchange rate, that default exchange rate, in this case 129, on the document itself. And the rules to being able to do that are controlled from this particular column here. And this is about fixing the exchange rate. So what it's asking is, what do you want to fix? Do you want to fix the currency or the relational, or both, i.e. you don't want users to be able to change the exchange rate on any document. But if you do want them to be able to, then you would fix the exchange rate as being the relational, i.e. the GBP figure, which means by default you can change the currency exchange rate. Okay, so once we've set that going, everything now going forward posted in 2017 January will now attract this particular rate. But of course, once we have put that new rate in, we may want to revalue any entries that are still open, both from a bank, customer and vendor perspective. So to do that, we use the adjust exchange rate batch job here, and we have some options that we must populate. We would not use the start date, we would leave that as blank, because of course we're not just revaluing anything that's posted in January, we want to revalue any open entries from previous periods as well. So we leave the start date as blank, pop in the date up to which we are revaluing to, and then we can add a posting description. Now you'll notice here we have these percent or variable fields here, and what Navision will do here, it will pull out the currency code and the exchange rate that it is changing. We will then enter in our posting date, which always should be the same as our ending date, and our document number, whatever we would like to call this. It's entirely up to us. We have the tick box here that says adjust customer, vendor and bank accounts. So we must adjust all rates. We can't just pick, for example, customers. It is all three. And then when we're happy with what we have entered, then we just click on OK, and it will go through all those open entries up to and including the 31st of January 2017 and revalue any that it finds. We can see those entries from the exchange rate adjust register, and you'll notice that you have the bank account entry. In this database there's just the one bank account, but if there's multiples then of course it would do all of that. We have the customer records and the vendor as well. And if you do for multiple currencies, then it will pull out all of those currencies as well. We can see the adjusted base and the adjusted LCY figure, and then the adjusted amount in LCY as well. But to see that in more detail and the actual result on, for example, a customer posting, I can come to my customers and I have this customer here that I know is a Euro customer. So I will go to ledger entries. There's my one invoice, and to see that gain or loss from the revaluation, I just have to go to the detailed ledger entries, and here I can see that the invoice was originally for this amount in euros, and the running the process has given us what is an unrealised gain at the moment of £319.74. So you have full audit trail of what has happened from your adjust exchange rate batch job. So I've come to the end of my session for today, and in summary we have looked at our VAT reporting, we've run through the calc and post settlement routine and looked at the VAT statement and reconciled the two together before posting. We've run through the year-end process where we have closed the year, and indeed we have created a year as well, and we have run the close income statement. We then moved on to currencies, and we looked at the exchange rates and how we populate the exchange rate table, and then have run the adjust currency valuation job. Well, I'd like to thank you for joining me today, and we can offer you a download of this and all previous webinars at the address shown on the screen. If you have any questions, I will open the floor up to answer any questions now for you if I can, but if you prefer you can always email Debbie on debbie@metaforex.co.uk, or indeed the normal support email address, and we will only be too happy to help you. So if I will now hopefully take you off mute and just ask if there is any questions that I can answer for you. Okay, I hope then that you have enjoyed the session. As I say, please make contact with us if you require any further information, and I look forward to you joining us again on the next Metaforex webinar. Thank you.